And their argument is that they are not affected by subsection 2, section C of section 23. Hence, my submission today is on section 23 that it should expand and include co-opted members. It must not only limit itself to elected members only. And those co-opted members should not be employed by the SGBs. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members of Parliament. My name is Michael Relihan. I'm a Pietermaritzburg resident, and I do not support the bill. I find fault with several aspects of the proposed bill, but my main objection is to Clause 37. I attended public schools when young, and I'm grateful to have received a good school education which provided me with the opportunity to complete BSc and MSc degrees in agriculture, after which I ran my own agricultural plant pathology business for 10 years, and then became employed by the KZN Department of Agriculture in similar capacity till today. When I attended school, 1974 to 1985, the principles of Christian faith were promoted at the schools I attended. Discipline was strict and enforced by corporal punishment, but this resulted in well-behaved scholars that suffered no ill effects from that, and who had a healthy relationship with teachers and fellow scholars. Children were pressurized to study hard and excel academically, which equipped us to be able to pursue scientific, technical, or any other careers after school, and also in other modern countries. Children were taught that sex was to be reserved for married couples, and sex education was not explicit, nor did it condone homosexuality or gender transitioning. The theory of evolution was not promoted at school. Use of alcohol, tobacco, and hard drugs was strictly forbidden, with likelihood of expulsion for abusing scholars. Multiple vaccination of scholars was not mandated. Parental input into the school's education system was welcomed. In recent years, these conditions have changed a lot for the worse in most schools and explain why home education has seen a tremendous increase in popularity. I have no children of my own, but I'm good friends with 3 families who have been running successful home education for their children. I support the existing right of parents to do home education, which is threatened by Clause 37. Here are my objections to Clause 37. 1. Clause 37 should be scrapped and redrafted in consultation with homeschool associations. The clause is not based on research or such consultation. Homeschool representation organizations such as the Lotse Trust have raised objection to this clause from the start. 2. Home education is a constitutional right, and the core problem with Clause 37 is that the ultimate decision to do home education is removed from the parent and assigned to the head of department, a delegated assessor appointed by the department, or the member of the Executive Council appeal body, and based entirely on their subjective opinion of what is in the best interests of the learner. This is totally unacceptable. I propose an alternative that parents who plan to do homeschooling not be required to apply for permission to home educate, but only be required to notify the department of which curriculum they have selected, the nature of curriculum assessments to be done, and summary curriculum assessment marks for the year prior that reported learner progression. I reject the proposed requirement for annual assessment by an appointed competent assessor at parental expense.
Time is up.
Honourable members, my name is Brent Coverdale. I'm the chairman of the Howick Prep SGB, and we do not support the bill in its current format. That said, however, the support or lack thereof should not be considered binary, and we do support certain sections which were included in our original comments submitted last year. Unfortunately, we never received a receipt thereof. What we do raise concern that this bill in its current format creates an us versus them, potentially the staff and SGB versus the department. And instead of a cooperative relationship, it can lead to future problems down the line. I raised concerns around the clause relating to the admission and language policies. We must remember that SGBs are elected by the community, and the school is an extension of the community and represents the parents and the broader society within which it exists. If we are suddenly to be dictated to by the heads of department that more so often than not do not reside in the areas where these schools exist, that will lead to future problems. We do know that obviously we have the best interests of the learners at heart, and looking at the language that best serves the community should rest with the SGB and not with the department. We know that government has always had procurement problems, and to centralize that to secure learner material will just further hamper the educational opportunities that our kids are there to receive. We all sit here today as parents, not because we want to spend our Saturday afternoons, but we have the best interests of our children at heart. We want to offer them the best educational opportunities, and that's why we do not support the bill in its current format. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nokbega Zelandlovu. I'm an SGP member of Northbury High School. My focus is on Clause 3. I'm here to fully reject the insertion of a new section which says that principals, teachers, and SGP members should take responsibility and accountability for school dropouts and absenteeism. The reason for my rejection is because educators already have too much in their hands, and they are not trained to deal with social and family issues that affect learners. I then propose that if it is so important for the Department of Education to deal with dropouts, I'll propose that each and every school be assigned its own social worker or social workers depending on the enrollment in the school, who will be at school on full-time basis and visit the family or families of learners that have a problem of absenteeism and those who have dropped out. And I think in this manner, the government will be able to hit two birds using only one stone. The social worker will be able to deal with an issue that has led to a learner dropping out of school or being late every day, while at the same time, the social will also be able to deal with those family or social issues that have led to a learner dropping out of school. Secondly, if the Department of Education cannot employ its own social workers full-time, then the issue of dropping out and absenteeism should then be dealt with by the Department of Social Development, who have trained social workers who are able to deal with social and family issues, not teachers. And then I'll then like to speak on behalf of the parents. Since I've said that I'm the member of the school governing body, I think it is also unfair for parents to be given a responsibility of dealing with absenteeism and dropout of learners in school. Because as we speak, some of us as parents, we even don't have enough time to attend.
Time is up.
Oh, God.
Good afternoon, committee, chairman, honourable members. My name is Paul Rankin. I thank you for this opportunity. I know your task is challenging. My job is the corporate manager of FEDSAS. FEDSAS is a governing body association. You've probably heard a number of our members speak to you before. I'm not going to go through and quote any details now, but I know you've been listening to them all. My job is to edit the YouTube clips that are created from this process. So I do know that you've spent 14 sessions, many, many hours, and you've heard lots of submissions going forward. I really would just like to focus on a few things that I think we need to be aware of, and three things that we're most concerned about to try and demystify all the clauses and the changes that are happening. And Simon Sinek often says you must explain the why. So to try and go a bit forward into the world next year, what would happen when some of these things are in place? and that might help us understand where we're going with the processes. You by now, I'm sure, have seen our 45-page submission of the documents, and obviously in 3 minutes I can't go through in that time. And I do understand you're going to have to look very closely at section 37 because we hear the concerns about that. But my 3 concerns are essentially about the final determination of a school's language and admission policy resting with a single person in the 9 provinces. It's an administrative concern that I've got, not necessarily a legal concern. In KZN, we already know and we've heard we're a large province, just under 6,000 schools. To get documents signed off from the HRD or even any authorized authorities within that process is dangerous. It takes a long time, and the policies need to be in place on an annual basis. So administratively, that's just a massive task. Likewise, the other provinces have got similar administrative challenges. To place that much power in an individual or a department is dangerous for our democracy as well. The second concern I have is the requirement to submit financial statements of governing body members. We are already dealing with volunteers who already willingly give of their time. We're now asking for financial information in the proposals, financial information of them and their family members. There's already ample application within the law for such documentation to be received and to be handled through the process. And my fear is, come 2 years' time, we find less and less governing body members stepping forward to serve on governing bodies in this very important volunteer requirement. Finally, and in a broad stroke, very concerned that the amendments are moving towards a centralized governance system. We know centralized government doesn't work. I'm not just saying in South Africa, I'm saying anywhere else in the world. We're moving the community out of the education system with this process. And we need to be very careful that we don't move the community. We all know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. We move the village out of the system and we try and centralize it in a number of the processes, and we're heading down a very dangerous road.
Time is up.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karen Grieshaber. I oppose the bill in its present form, especially clause 37, which seems to take away the parental rights to educate their children. I'm a member of the public. I'm a former homeschooler. I am currently a homeschool sports coach, and I am hopefully a future homeschool parent. I started homeschooling in grade 8. I was not a school dropout or failing student. I was top of my class academically and an enthusiastic sportsman. From 1999, my homeschool years were simply a continuation of this, where I continued to excel academically, was highly involved in club sports, playing cricket and soccer in senior clubs, and remained very involved in my community through my church and youth. My choice of curriculum led me to visit America, a great privilege to participate in an international student convention. I also qualified for tertiary education and proceeded to study at an institute of my choice. Today, I am still in admiration of the homeschooling process and of homeschoolers themselves. As mentioned, I'm a sports coach and owe much of my livelihood to the homeschool community. I'd like to mention my parents who homeschooled me knew what education was about. My mother was a founding teacher of 2 schools, Maritzburg Christian School and Heritage Academy, on whose board my father is still the chairman. I say this because their decision to homeschool me illustrates that homeschoolers are people who care deeply about excellent education. Homeschoolers are mostly people who pay attention to good values, who are intentional about education, and who are intelligent about how they raise their families and provide the best future for their children. And I would also like to look to the future. When my wife and I have children, we fully intend to homeschool them as well. We will enjoy the natural extension of parenthood by teaching them our values and our perspective on life. We will pay close attention to each child's personal interests, allowing them to develop as unique individuals and doing so at a pace that suits each one in each subject and field of learning. The proposed bill, and in its current form, seems to take away my democratic right to educate my children in a colorful, intentional, and constructive way. Clause 37 would interfere with my family and the choices I will make for my children. This arises from my personal experience of the extensive value that homeschooling has played in my own life, and which I also see in homeschooling children every day on the sports field. They are all relying on you to make wise decisions for their sake and their futures. With this in mind, I ask that you conduct further research on home education and additional engagement with homeschool experts. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Vincent Mwabe, a DA councillor from Umshwati. I do not support the bill, as the DA rejects the clause on language policy. We do not believe that SGB should lose the power to make the language policies of their schools. Unless the language policies are being used to discriminate against learners, the head of departments of the Provincial Department of Basic Education should not be allowed to have the power to change policies. If there are instances where languages policies are being used to discriminate against learners, an appeals mechanism must be put in place. The DA is very worried that the department should use clause 5 to target schools that uses a single language to teach, especially African schools. This would have terrible consequences for learners lucky enough to go to school in their mother's language. Many students from across the world have proven that learners who receive their education in their home language learn better and faster and enjoys schools more. It also improves their confidence. Thank you.
I'm going to check if there are any new people on the right flank. Okay, in the absence of any, I'm going to focus on this. Where was I? I was here. Yes. I'm coming now to this block. Sir, yes, number 1, make it to the chair. Ma'am, number 2, make it to the chair. Right at the back there, number 3, make it to the aisle. Any other hands? Going once, going twice, going thrice, gone. Coming to the side, sir, with the black jacket. Young sir, with the bow tie, you are number 2. Ma'am, you're number 3. Sir, you're number 4. Glasses, black jacket, yes. The lady next to him. I need to check how many chairs remain after these hands. Just one more. Black jacket, mustard, yes, you, yes. Oh, one more. Lady, black jacket, on the wall. You're lucky. Spelili Zdulo. There's only one chair here. There's only one chairperson. Rest. Rest. All right. Speaker number 1, come to the mic. As you come to the mic, everyone move. That gentleman who had his hand up, you can then come sit. Where is he? He was here. Where is he? Where is he? Okay. You ever heard of the phrase never give up? Yeah, Mhlekazi, have you ever heard the phrase never give up? You almost gave up on your opportunity to speak. It should be a life lesson to you. You may start, sir. Thank you.
Madam Chair, honorable ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rinus Niemand. I'm a councillor at the Mzunduzi Council. We are totally opposed to the bill. Chairperson, if the Bella Bill passes, the second part of the clause 41 will give the minister the power to create offences and carry fines and jail sentences of up to 6 months. These regulations could also force teachers to refer learners from as young as 12 for abortions and all forms of contraception, and compel them to keep this secret from their parents. It is indeed frightening that the present format of the bill is driving the ongoing marginalization of parents and family. Even SGBs are undermined. Chairperson, the bill has not been changed since 2017 draft, in spite of the significant changes in the education landscape. The lack of research by the department on vital policy positions such as rural education, homeschooling, and the failure to consider online schooling are part of our objections. Chair, many educators are against this bill and will fight against it. But if this bill passes, they will not have a choice if they want to avoid jail. Already, if they want to keep their jobs, they must teach what the department tells them, even if it goes against their beliefs. Now, the minister wants the power to make regulations that punish teachers, parents, SGBs, and members who don't implement regulations with fines and jail sentences of up to 6 months. We are opposed to the bill, and in particular clause 37 that amends 51. This is the section on homeschooling. When the department imposed comprehensive sexual education, parents then took their children out of school to homeschool them. But now the department wants to force the national curriculum statement that people normally call caps on homeschoolers. The Bella Bill is being used to force learners to do comprehensive sexual education. We ask that these clauses be removed and that new clauses be added to protect the parent right to choose a godly curriculum and have their children assessed against curricula they have chosen, not the national curriculum. We are opposed to section 51, subsection 16, which gives the minister power to make regulations relating to the registration and administration of home education. Chairperson, many small Christian and religious schools have been started to allow learners to receive and educate that is in agreement with their family values. These small schools struggle to register as they cannot meet the same requirements of big independent schools.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready. Dear Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, my name is Marinda Arvia and I object to the entire bill, specifically Clause 2741, but today my focus will be primarily Clause 37. I am a home educating mum and a SACE registered educator by profession. I'm also chair of the KZN Home Education Association. I have always had a passion for children who are differently abled. Our second son has faced many challenges. Our home education journey began 10 years ago when the educational team we were consulting with suggested we home educate our third son as an intervention. 2 years later, we declined the space kept at a public school as we had experienced the blossoming benefits of home education to address the specific needs of our 4 children. There are 3 sections of Clause 37 that are concerned to us as a family. 37.2.8.3. We have a constitutional right to freedom of curriculum, and not all curricula is comparable to the national curriculum in its entirety. Hence, it should not be prescribed, either directly or via assessments. In our home, we have followed a different pathway for each one of our children, determined by their specific educational needs. Our eldest completed his Cambridge A-levels. Our second is looking into the trade sector, and our younger children are following a classical approach to education, homing in on the skills of grammar, dialectic, mastery, and rhetoric. We do not follow CAPS, as we found that mastering skills for lifelong learning, research, and exploration were better explored through a classical approach. The other section of Clause 37 that is concerned is 37.2.b.3, annual assessments by a competent assessor. What is the purpose of cumbersome annual assessments? As a home educating parent, you are constantly involved in and working with your children, keeping record of their educational progress as a celebration of their progression, and adapting to their needs as you proceed along your journey. Tests and assessments are done at school so that parents have insight into how their children are faring. A classical mastery approach to education is quite different from a spiral graded approach and can thus not be assessed in the same manner. The same applies to other home educational philosophy and methodology. The other one of concern is 37.16. As an educator, home education opened my eyes to the mammoth possibilities to accommodate the specific needs of children and the absolute affordability of it all, making it an accessible form of education for the poorer communities as well. The cost of annual assessments may prevent home education as an option for some of these families. Hence, Section 37.16 is also of concern, as it gives the Minister the right to make changes without consultation. In conclusion, the Ballot Bill, Section 37. Thanks. Thank you for your time.
Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, thank you for holding these public hearings. My name is Jenny Oberholzer. I'm residing in Pietermaritzburg and I'm an educator. I completely reject the Bella Bill as it stands. I have home educated all 4 of my children. Neither I nor they regret the choices we made. In fact, my children plan to homeschool their own children. Hence my increased concern about this Bella Bill to protect their rights to choose how to home educate my children's children. I support parental education choice, which particularly Section 37 of the Bella Bill undermines in its current form. Parents should have the choice of curriculum for their children's specific needs. One of my daughters battles with severe learning challenges, and being able to select a curriculum that catered to her strengths was vital. The educational psychologist we saw when she was about 12 said that my daughter was one of the most confident children she had tested, and encouraged us to keep doing what we were doing, home educating. My 3 oldest children were accepted in and succeeded really well in tertiary education. They are now working and contributing to society. My daughter with the learning challenges is now a teacher who's able to help other children. There is a significant crisis in education today, and I want to propose that the government rather empower more parents from diverse sectors of society to homeschool their children, rather than discouraging alternatives such as home educating to bring them into public schools. If we were able to do this, it would immediately address many of the issues in society. There are many parents who are unemployed or are working in the informal sector who are educated to a high enough level to be able to facilitate their own children's education. If the education authorities rather open the way for parents to know the choices they have and to give them the correct information and access to various curricula that would serve them well, we would help our society, rather than trying to centralize all education into overcrowded, overworked schools. Many current homeschoolers would be willing to mentor and assist disadvantaged parents to start up with home educating. Instead of trying to increase their control in the education center, the government could embrace the responsibility for education to be given to the parents and decentralized to them and their communities. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I can bend down. Good afternoon, members of Parliament. It's a privilege for me to stand here. I represent, or I would not say represent, but I'm a member of SIPSA. It's the Concerned Young People of South Africa. And we are coming from the rural parts of Kwa-Zulu Natal. My name is Gil Skumbi, and unfortunately I have to stand on the side of those who say I cannot accept the bill as it stands. We are working with children, we're going to schools, we visit schools as we are invited. Before COVID, we visit between 600 and 900 schools per annum. Going to them, talking about prevention of drug abuse, prevention of abortion. Children are without hope. And I'm sorry to say that this bill is not addressing any of the problems that the children are experiencing on the floor. We come to schools where there's no discipline. I came to a school recently in Grange, Port Elizabeth, where a principal, when I entered the office to ask permission if we can speak to the children, there was a whole bouquet of scissors. It looked like a flower bouquet on her desk. And she said, "Do you know why is that?" I had to collect all the scissors in the school because the one grade 7 boy grabbed a pair of scissors and he stabbed another one right through the arm. And she said, the social workers can't help, the police don't help, the Department of Education say that boy with that aggression in him must still come back to the school. It's encouraged by drug abuse. I come to another school, lady from the Cape. I've been there several times in the Cape Flats. I love the place, but it's a sad place to be. I can just say that I came to one school, a primary school. We asked permission from the principal, can we speak to your children? And he said, he came out and he said, don't make an appointment, you speak to them now. I said, why are you so anxious? He said, because we have a major problem. After the third period in the day, we cannot teach anymore. I said, why? He said, because they're all high. I said, how is that? And I thought this principal is now, overstating things. He said, because at the corners of the school, the children jump the fence and they get whatever they need and they come back, and the third period we cannot teach anymore. That just before I entered his office, a boy left and he was high. You could see, he said, please come back tomorrow to my office and we can discuss it. This bill has not addressed any of that. We come to schools in Kwa-Zulu Natal, rural schools. Sorry, my time is up.
Yes.
I can keep you busy for a whole day.
Thank you.
Honourable Chair and committee members, my name is Carl Bermer. I want to oppose the Bella Bill, especially Clause 37. Clause 37 will take the wonderful opportunity away from me to enable my parents to buy or plan a curriculum which understands the world of home education. You see, at home I have many resources freely to my disposal. I can also travel with my father to various African destinations. I've learned so much from the people in Namibia where my mom helped other children with their schooling during the COVID time. I also have an older brother who is a pilot and he taught me many things about aviation when I flew with him. I want to be a pilot one day. The cost of the Clause 37 assessments might interfere with my flying lessons, which I want to start with when I'm 16. My mom read many books to me and I learned to read all by myself when I was 8 years old. I could read the King James Bible. The maths curriculum my parents bought for me makes a lot of sense to me, and the tests and exams which are included are as good as any assessments. I am currently reading a book about special forces and a biography on Max Verstappen, the Formula 1 champion. I am very interested in technology, cars and airplanes. Will the assessors understand all my scientific interests? If my parents have to pay for people to check on my education, how can we in addition budget for music lessons or swimming or Pathfinders? I enjoy Pathfinders very much as we do a lot of community service. I also learn a lot from my older siblings who have all been home educated. They are very strict about my progress. I would suggest to pay them to assist me. They understand home education, I know very well. They want just the best for me and they are successful in all they do and they will donate the money back to me. Problem solved for the Department of Education and a win for me. Thank you for the opportunity and privilege to be here today and to speak to you.
Honourable Chair and Honourable Members of Parliament, I thank you for the opportunity to address you on the Bella Bill. I know a lot of people have spoken about the homeschooling and that is what I'm going to address. My name is Bev Heslop and I do not support the bill, specifically Clause 37, 31, 8 and several others. When our Lord and God created us, He created us perfectly with free choice. We are a diverse nation with many different cultures and languages, and this is what makes our country beautiful and special. We are not a one-size-fits-all nation, but rather a growing and expanding people. Like I've already mentioned, we are individuals, and there's only one Bev Heslop in this world. Some might say, thank goodness for that. I am unique as the person sitting next to you. We may have a lot in common, but we differ enormously in how we think, how we gather information, and in what we like and dislike. The school system that the bill caters for is very restrictive, and it is a one-size-fits-all. Because of this, what we are doing is a disservice to all the children that think and learn differently, or have learning disabilities or challenges. This curriculum and method of teaching only benefits a small group of the children. Therefore, a large percentage of the children in the class do not get all their needs met and fall behind and don't reach their full potential. We as parents know our children better than anyone else and have their best interest at heart. Therefore, we should have the right to teach our children in the way that meets their individual needs and instill in them the beliefs and morals of our schooling. I am against the bill as it is restrictive and not in the child's best interest. And as my husband spoke and told you about our son with his problems, he would never have coped in school. He wouldn't be where he is now. he would still be battling. He would probably have been kicked out of school for all the disruption. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members of Parliament. All protocol observed. I'm Brits Maria, and I'm the Deputy Chair of the SOUU, Suid-Afrikaanse Onderwysunie in Kwa-Zulu Natal. And we partly support the bill, not in the full contents, but partly. Thank you for the opportunity. The SOUU Kwa-Zulu Natal reaffirms our commitment to the advancement of quality public education. We fully support no unfair discrimination on the basis of race, gender, or any arbitrary grounds. Based on the proposed Bella amendments, there is now only one dominant player, and that's the state. As far as the admission policy is concerned, Section 5, subsection 5, the HOD has final authority, which is not acceptable and neither constitutional. The MEC for Education of Gauteng versus the governing body of Ravona Primary School already proved that. As far as the language policy, Section 6, the HOD may approve language or amend and return to the SGB with such recommendation. The HOD may direct a public school to adopt more than one language of instruction. The Constitution Court head of Mpumalanga, Department of Education, and others against Hoërskool Ermelo in 2010 already put that in place. Our formal proposal retains Section 6 with regard to the language policy in public schools. It has passed constitutional scrutiny. Avoid litigation. The veto power of the HOD opens doors for constitutional consultation. As far as the school capacity is concerned, any school reaches a critical point when it must be regarded as full. Objective criteria for this purpose is required. Regulation 9 of the minimum norms and standards for public school infrastructure is abused. Contentious versus acceptable amendments. Section 9 and 10, learner discipline. Rights of educators and the silent majority of learners requires attention. We agree with the prohibition of corporal punishment. Then Section 20, unilateral utilization of school facilities is not acceptable. The local district office may be allowed to control the utilization of school facilities. Section 21(3)(a), compulsory centralized procurement. The centralized procurement of PPEs during the COVID-19 period.
Time's up.
Graphically, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to members of Parliament. My name is Heta Miller. I'm the Provincial Manager for FETSAS in KZN. On behalf of my member schools, the following. We support Clause 28, but together with the authority that the MEC has to approve the application for a loan, investment account, that carries an administrative duty. May we please request that a time frame be added. For example, the HOD or the MEC has 2 weeks to render feedback to the SGB. In support of Clause 24 with regards to a centralized guideline with regards to SGB elections. In KZN, we have a saying, Bayenza lento batandayo. KZN has 12 educational districts. It lends itself to everybody wants to do their own thing. And then Clause 4, in terms of the admission policy, I would have thought that the infrastructure of a school will determine the capacity and therefore will determine the number of learners that might be enrolled. In KZN currently, the HOD is overstepping his powers. Principals are bullied into accepting learners, irrespective of the fact that the school is already full to capacity. inherent, that is an unfairness to the child, that is, in terms of the Constitution, eligible for education. Because in KZN, we know this for a fact, that classrooms have learners up to a number of 70. It's 3 children on 1 desk, 1 textbook. It's not fair towards our children. Thank you.
Ngibingelele kusihlalo nawo wonke amalungu eParliament. I am Sakile Pindela, and DA activist. I believe that this, sorry. Oh, thank you. I believe that this Bella bill should not be passed. It must be rejected. The bill ignores homeschooling concern, and it does not address the real issues in school, such as scrambled infrastructure, dropout rates, poor quality teaching, while completely missing an opportunity to legislate online learning. We believe that this bill should not be, this bill could be used to target schools that use mother tongue as a language of instruction, particularly single medium schools. The Constitution protects the rights of mother tongues education where this is reasonably practiced. The DA strongly defend and seek to extend the right where parents wish to exercise it. Schools and communities must keep the power to decide what is best for their children. The department should only intervene. The department should only intervene if there is evidence that school is using language policy to discriminate against learners. The Bella bill gives the department the opportunity to abuse its power and to discriminate against learners, and also to undermine the rights to the mother tongue education. Thank you.
Good day. I'm here to just share a bit of my experience. Every day I wake up, I go to work, and my job requires me to always look at what is in the best interest of a child. I'm a social worker and I'm a homeschooling mom at the same time. Looking at the Children's Act, we apparently have one of the best acts in the world, and if the act says that you need to take the best interest of my child into consideration,
Can I interrupt you
that
a bit?
allows me to homeschool my children.
Can I interrupt you a bit?
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself.
Sorry, it's Renee Morecambe.
I'm just reminding you of the rules. Introduce yourself, state your position on the bill, and then go into the detail of your speech.
Okay. My name is Renee Morecambe, and I reject the bill based on the fact that it's not in the best interest of my children. Having a special needs child on a list for 5 years before he can go to school is not in the best interest of my child. Having a son that was gifted and was supposed to skip grade 2, but was forced to stay in that grade when he could already do algebra in grade 2, it was not in the best interest of my child. The educational psychologist actually asked us to homeschool my son because of the box that they are put in. Children are not to be boxed. That is not in the best interest of our children. What is in the best interest of my child is to have his choice to homeschool, to thrive within the homeschool environment, to be with his parents, to be protected by his parents. And ultimately, my goal as a mom, as a social worker, is always putting my children first and their best interests first. And my choice to homeschool my children is in the best interest of my child. And you also need to take that into consideration, not only the best interest of my boys, but the best interest of every homeschool mom and child out there. Thank you.
Right. Malungu endlu ebekekileyo kwisomthetho. My name is Tanki Tswananyana. I'm the DA activist. I do not support this Bella bill. We do not believe school governing bodies should lose their power to make the admission policies for their schools. Unless the admission policies are being used to discriminate against learners, the heads of the Provincial Department of Basic Education, HODs, should not be allowed to have the powers to interfere. If there are instances where admission policies are being used to discriminate against learners, the DA believes that an appeals mechanism must be put in place. It would be a legal requirement for all schools to send their admission policies to the department to be approved within 30 days of the Bella Bill becoming law. The department would have to approve all these policies within 60 days of receiving them. We do not believe that the department is capable of processing all of the policies within the time frame. The DA also does not believe that an intergovernmental committee should be established to deal with learners' documentation. You're wasting time. We believe that it would be a waste of resources. There are also concerns about whether this intergovernmental committee might transgress the regulations of Protection of Personal Information Act, POPIA. It also seems like Mr. Ndlela, who was given clarity to the bill earlier on, sought to defend this bill instead of giving clarity. I hope and pray that these are not the effects of cadre deployment. Thanks.
And that's how we wrap up, folks. Thank you for your time. I'm going to hand the meeting back to the chairperson of the portfolio committee so that she can close her meeting in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Yabo, for holding the fort for us. We are done now in Pietermaritzburg. I think I must just clarify a few issues. One is that the issue of identifying 3 districts in a province is what we have done throughout the provinces, understanding very well that actually for all provinces, we've been inundated with complaints that is not enough. But just to take you aback, that we have, when we started last year with this process, we started with calling for written submissions, which we have received and processed. After that, we had oral submissions in Parliament, where people had to go to Parliament for oral submissions. So what we are doing now is a third leg of us now as members of Parliament to go to the public. And unfortunately, we identified 3 districts in each province. So that's how we've been doing it. This is the 6th province. We've been to Limpopo, we've been to Mpumalanga, we've been to Free State, we've been to Gauteng, we are in Kwa-Zulu Natal now, we've been to Northwest too. And we are left with one meeting here in Kwa-Zulu Natal tomorrow, which is going to be in Pinetown. And then we will be left with 3 Capes provinces. And then after that, we are going to process your comments from province number 1 to the last province. And it's going to be a time now for us as a table to debate what we've been listening, you saying, you saw we were just listening to you, we did not speak. It's going to be our opportunity to reflect on what you were saying, of course, like you say, we are diverse. We've got our own interests even here on the table. We are mothers ourselves. So we've got our own interests. We've got the interest of our own political parties. As diverse as we are, we're going to process based on what we had picked up from yourselves. We're going to debate the report as National Assembly, and then after that, we'll send it to the National Council of Provinces. And after that, it's going to be sent to the President, of course, to take a decision on the bill itself, whether to become an act or to reject it, or based on what we would have been done. What I'm trying to say is that your views, we are still going to process them, written and orally made. So let me thank the members of the provincial legislature for coming here on a Saturday, working with us, listening to what the people of KZN, your constituency, whose views are on the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. They are serving in the Education Committee here in the legislature. And let me thank you for coming and made your contributions in the bill, because it is in your interests. We are talking about the future of this country, our own children, because all of us here, we are parents. It's a future that we are crafting for our own children, and that process needs us to consult with you, and that is what we've been doing. And like I have said, that we will still continue to move to other provinces to do it. So, siyayivala manje, siyayivala apha Pietermaritzburg. And again, we sincerely apologize for the change of venue. Sincerely, we apologize. It was something beyond our control. And we thank you for understanding that despite that, you have made your way through to this venue. Thank you so much. Siyabonga.